Welcome into the 90 Plus 2 podcast. I'm Sammy St.Jean. That's Jeremy Striano. And this is the crossroad between pundits and fans. We are aspiring psychojournalists, have a love for the game. And this is our starting point. This is episode 6. I'm a little raspy, a little congested, so I'm going to apologize in advance. One of the reasons we're kind of doing this episode a little late this week is how busy I was towards the end of the week and being a little sick. So we waited for the results today so I could recover a little bit. So we're going to be results heavy at the top of the podcast. But Jeremy, how you doing?
Sammy, I was waiting in the bullpen for you to kind of give me the reins to the intro. I was like, oh man, this is my chance to kind of like make an impression on my boss here. But no, Sammy's powering through. He's a champ. He's hanging in there. But no, we're good. Actually, fun fact, or a little bit of a realization: you are not in a suit for the first time this episode or this season.
Or just like the show in general. It might be one of the last times that I'm not in a suit, and that's because we got our new kit, an Atletico kit, and it's Antoine Griezmann, my first non-Tottenham kit that I've gotten actually.
Nice,
So
nice.
went through, I had a whole list of kits I was considering, but this is the one we had to go to. I think top 3 players outside of Tottenham, it has to be Antoine Griezmann. He's in there. Other 2 would probably be Rafael Leao and Luka Modric. So but those were the 3 I was considering. Ended up going with this one because I got it on sale and it's fire, so can't complain.
No,
But Jeremy, I know you have a new kit as well, so let's see
oh
it.
man, I have an absolute banger, and I haven't purchased a kit from any Premier League club that isn't Man United. So this is my first non-United Premier League kit, and we're going with the away of AFC Bournemouth. It's got I hold on, I gotta show. It's got these like leaves, like palm tree effect. I'm not a big uh, fan of betting sponsors, but I just like it because of the template. It is an absolute vibe. This will be my go-to summer going out, drinking on the patio or hanging out with the friends. So maybe the first time we go to Coleman's, shout out Coleman's Authentic Irish Pub. This might be outfit number 1. But I love this kit so much. And kits will come up later in the episode. So keep an
That's
eye out for
true.
that.
For us at Syracuse on Monday, we wrap up our classes, so maybe even a trip to Wolves Beer Garden to debut the kits. Also a possibility since we have a little more time, and some of these fixtures are going to end up in the midweek, stuff like that. So a lot of things on the option, but we got to get into these results. There are a lot of them, especially because we're doing this after some of the Friday, Saturday results have come in, unlike our normal Thursday. Next episode will be back on Thursday, normal Thursday recording, Friday morning release.
With a
Uh,
guest potentially, correct?
I believe so. Yes. So
Okay.
we'll tease it now because he was supposed to be on this episode. It's gonna
Right.
be my good friend Owen Serafino, the one that got me into soccer. He's a Man U guy. It would have
Let's
been nice to
go.
have it would have been nice to have him for the Man U Tottenham kind of breakdown, but it's all right. We give him a pass. He has a good excuse, so we're not going to rat out what his excuse is. So he'll be on next week. We'll get into that, maybe how he got into soccer as well, since he was kind of my influence getting into the game. But enough stalling. Results. Let's start with the Prem. There's a lot of them. So I'm going to list them off. Jeremy, you tell me what you're interested in. All right.
Yeah.
West Ham 4-0 over the kit you're wearing. Bournemouth. Arsenal 3-3 Southampton. So we're ranging back. We got a lot of games to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Newcastle 6, Tottenham 1.
Oh, you just threw that one under the rug.
Yeah, pretending it didn't happen. Liverpool with an important win over Nottingham Forest, 3-2. Villa, Brentford, 1-1. That was actually a pretty fun game to watch. Low
Yeah.
scoring, but like competitive. Man U, Brighton, 0-0 in the FA Cup, but Man U advancing on penalties. Got to witness the Jeremy Giuliano reaction
Oh,
live. That was fun.
yeah.
Man City, 3. Sheffield United, 0. Mahrez with all 3 goals. He doesn't score all the time, but Mahrez, when he scores more than once. Like
Yeah, he shows up in big time performances, like when
mm,
Man City needs a big win in a cup, or like trying to get up again, like trying to catch. Now it's Arsenal, but like in years past, like trying to catch Chelsea, trying to catch United. He's been that type of player ever since he got purchased from Leicester City.
Also, I have to say, some people aren't a big fan of him, but I've loved what I've seen from Jack Grealish the second half of this Prem season. I think
Yeah,
since we've come back from that international break for the World Cup, like he's been on a tear. He's been very creative. I know he's considered a bit of a bust when he originally came into Man City. Really didn't produce a ton. I think he's really stepped up and proven maybe not his full price tag quite yet, but he's definitely, stepped up to the plate lately. But the other results, this is kind of catching up to the midweek results. Villa 1, Fulham nothing. Chelsea lose again, 2-0 to Brentford. Will they ever score? You never know. Gallagher is the only person to have scored in the entire month of April for
That's
Chelsea.
wild. That is wild, but we'll get into that.
I'm pretty sure they have the same number of own goals in this month as goals, by the way. Liverpool 2, West Ham 1. That was sorry for the biggest club in London and Carl Winter. Nottingham Forest and Brighton 3-1 in favor of Nottingham Forest. And then the result I needed more than anything as a Tottenham fan that's struggling, Man City 4, Arsenal 1. And then Spurs and United. I intentionally picked up a game to broadcast because I thought this was going to be a bad game. I thought it was going to be a miserable experience for me. So I tried not to watch it. Tottenham and you draw 2-2. And I feel like that was probably the best result for like the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you won more than I won, if that makes sense.
Potentially. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
We can start there actually, but the last two results were two that happened today that I thought were interesting. Palace getting a win over West Ham 4-3, so back-to-back drops for the Hammers. And then Brighton 6, Wolves 0. I don't know if you saw any of this game, Jeremy.
No.
If not, I'm going to make a brief comment. That Wolves performance was possibly the worst performance I've seen from any team in the Prem, and I have watched almost every Tottenham game this season. That was like, again, Brighton played very well. Don't get me wrong. But at least 4 of those goals were a result of a disastrous, just sloppy play, man. Turnovers in terrible spots. Like, I don't know. Again, credit Brighton. You win 6-0, you deserve some type of credit, but that performance from Wolves was abysmal. But let's start it. Tottenham Man U. Give me the reason why you think I won more than you won.
Because I think Man United came out to this game and just absolutely dominated. I think they showed up on the road and they got started early. And I want to give a shout out to Jadon Sancho, who I think has faced criticism all year. Let's not forget that Jadon Sancho sat out for a long time, and it was for non-medical issues. I think it was for like his mental health. He was going through something like mentally. I want to say like they weren't really giving a whole lot of information on why he was sitting out, but they were just saying like Sancho's not at training. Sancho's not at training. And that was going on for at least, a month and a half, 2 months. Like it was a while. And he's come back. He's got a couple goals in his return, but I feel like Man U fans were just riding on him like, oh, he's crap. He doesn't play the wing well. He's, getting beat by every right back he gets played against. But he stepped up big and getting that first goal against a team like Tottenham. I get it. I know your current form, but Tottenham is still Tottenham, right? I don't care, what everyone's record is at the time, even though like Chelsea are in the mud. Like to me, that's still a big game. It's these programs, these organizations that just have this rich history, and you know what they're capable of doing. So I give props to Jadon, and then Marcus Rashford. The guy was in my team of the year. He steps up whenever he needs to. He is the backbone, along with I would probably throw in Bruno. He's a little bit of hit or miss for me sometimes, but more hit than miss. Second half stunk. It was atrocious. I was watching it at Newhouse of all places, so I really couldn't enjoy it as much. I really couldn't like freak out as I would, if I was watching the game at home. Harry Maguire needs to go, man. Like
all right. Do you think Ronaldo wants Dyer and Maguire to join him in the Saudi league?
At Al Nasser or just
in the Saudi league in general? That
sure,
way we don't
why
have to
not
watch him play anymore.
Ship him. I don't care.
Okay, that works. Yeah.
But props to Tottenham for drawing it. And like a point to me isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's like knowing that you could have had 3. But all in all, United need to play a complete 90 minutes, and they didn't do that, and they deserve to drop points. The way they played that second half, they deserve to drop points. After a hard-fought game against Brighton, like Brighton is no schlub, and you saw it with the 6-0. I know Wolves are mid at best, but Brighton is no schlub. They're a great team. I love some of their players. We were watching the game with you. How many times did I compliment Moises Caicedo? Like I was just saying, like, he's this great young player. He's the type of player, like, we'll get into it in a little bit, but like a Ward Prowse or like a Ruben Neves, where like I can see them on a bigger stage. And I don't know what's holding them back. I get they're loyal, but to me, you can't be more loyal than a player like Marco Royce. Like I don't care. Like if you want to play to the best of your ability and play European football, it might be time to kind of like, look for a different option. But again, it is a decent result for this podcast because we share the point. We each get a point. Yeah, am I a little salty? I think we could have gotten two more. Sure. But then you could have said you could have gotten two more and you could have gotten a third. But all in all, it was a decent game. I think, it was all Man U first half, all Tottenham second half. Honestly, it's how the scoring went. It was 2-0 and then 2-2. But Sammy, give me your reaction to your side.
Oh, first thing I was going to say is I think Caicedo and a lot of the Brighton players are showing this loyalty very similar to what De Zerbi's doing. He wants to be loyal to Brighton. I think that's having a little bit of a trickle-down effect. I'm not saying Caicedo is going to stay there because there is a very good chance he gets picked up.
Yeah,
and I know he's been linked to. I'm pretty sure he's been linked to Liverpool, Arsenal. Like, there's a lot of clubs he's been tied to at certain points. But I think to an extent, that's why a lot of these players are waiting because they can see what kind of system and what kind of success that De Zerbi's having. And I think their 6-0 win today is just a small piece of the pie to show kind of what they're doing. Again, so this is one of those games I had to go back and rewatch just because I didn't have the cojones to watch the original playthrough. So my reaction is, one, Pedro Porro is continuing to improve. If they can, honestly, I really want Julian Nagelsmann because I think if he can create a system with a 3 in the back and have Udogie and Porro, two very attacking minded outside, wing backs going forward next season and allowing them to be just creative and get forward and make those overlapping runs, Tottenham actually might not be that bad next year, even if they lose Harry Kane. So Pedro Porro, got to give him a lot of credit. And then the second goal Sonny scored, I love how much Spurs means to Sonny. I know he's had an up and down season, but like you can't take anything away from him again, there are some teams that, like, if you don't root for Tottenham, I can see not loving Sonny just because he's a little chippy sometimes. So not loving him on the field necessarily. But one, you can't hate him off the field. He's about as good of a guy as it gets. And then two, the passion he shows. That's something Tottenham has lacked at quite a few too many points this season, is kind of that passion, that determination. And seeing him score that goal and run over and give Ryan Mason a hug after, that showed a lot. One, it showed that Ryan Mason should have been appointed over Stellini from the beginning once Conte had to go out, because clearly no one was showing that type of reaction to Stellini. Not that he had that type of moment to where that would happen, but I think there was a lot of passion given towards Mason, showing he has some of those players in the locker room, and he's earned that trust and that connection. I think Ryan Mason also showed with his reaction, the way he handled himself on the touchline, that he cares a lot about Tottenham. And I know he could be going on to bigger and better opportunities in the future, but if he wants to stay on this staff going forward, I don't think he should be the long-term answer as a manager yet. But if he could stay on in the future, I think that would be a big bonus for Tottenham going forward. I think that's the biggest thing Tottenham needs to really get over this hump. And I heard, I don't remember who said this to me. It might have even been you, but Tottenham's in that kind of last season Man U skid right now, trying to figure things out. They're just kind of at a bit of a loss right now.
It wasn't me, but it's sense.
Similar, know. There's just like some things they're trying. Actually, it might have been Owen now that I think about it. There's just certain stuff they're just trying to figure out. They have these really brutal games at points. And I think if they can get over this hump next season and just keep players, like, you're not going to be able to keep everybody, because Kane, for example, is probably going to want to leave because he deserves a trophy. And no matter where he goes, he's going to be that player I defend. He can. The only place he can't go is Arsenal and Chelsea. Otherwise, I'm defending him for the rest of his
career. He can go to Man U.
Yeah, I can live with it. He just can't play. He can't play for Arsenal, Chelsea. I wouldn't be able to. That would hurt. God. That would hurt way too much.
That's like
I don't think I don't think he would do it either.
No,
But like
we can't
you
have,
it would hurt. That would hurt a lot.
we can't have
Uh,
another Sol Campbell situation. That's
no,
just no, no way, no
but
way.
I think if Tottenham can bring in the manager of the future, make a couple key signings that manager wants, not that Daniel Levy wants, but that manager wants, and keep the players and the staff that truly have a passion for Spurs and have that trickle over, then you're going to see that kind of culture in the locker room change. But that's enough Tottenham, enough Man U about that fixture in particular. Was there any of these other games you wanted to get into? I guess we should probably talk about Man City Arsenal. I feel like that's probably the main one.
Yeah, but
Uh,
real quick, I just want to shout out Southampton. I think this has been their biggest result all year, and this is the reason why I'm giving them a little bit of airtime on our episode today. I love when teams who are facing relegation don't give up. It could be defeating, when you have like your fans kind of like realizing like, okay, we might be heading down to the championship, because it happens to three teams every year. However, for the championship, three teams get promoted. So now, it's elation, but then it's also, sadness, where these three teams in the Prem. Southampton, to me, I think are destined to go to the championship. It's sad because I really love Southampton. I've been praising their academy for years, and you can just see the current players that are playing on different stages who have come from the Southampton, system. I'm talking Virgil van Dijk, Sadio Mane, just to name a few. But shout out to the Saints. They get a really big point against the current first place team, who I think will eventually drop out of first place in the next week or two. But I just love that they were showing some fight. They were able to get a point against a really tough Arsenal team. But yeah, it's like down but not out, right? Like they're not officially out yet, even though they're kind of close. But I love when teams just keep that fight. But again, we'll go into Man City Arsenal, because look, Man City might be the second best team in the world right now, behind Madrid.
I would argue that Madrid has not proven themselves this season to be better than City right now.
See, okay, like I would say Bayern, all right, but City might be the best team in the world.
City are the best team in the world. I don't think it's a conversation right now.
Yeah.
I think Real Madrid's form in La Liga in particular, and then Bayern, they're kind of in the mud at the moment.
Yeah.
Not like truly in the mud.
Yeah.
But for Bayern, they're kind of in the mud. They're just in a weird spot. They're just, again, they're one of those clubs that is trying to figure a lot out. But in terms of this Man City Arsenal game, Man City, that first half was some of the most dominant display of football I've seen. Like Arsenal didn't, it felt like they didn't touch the ball.
Yeah.
Like at least in any dangerous areas. Like they had one chance before that first goal from Kevin De Bruyne that was pretty close, but after that it was really all Man City. Kevin De Bruyne had one of the performances of the season, I think, in that game. He was spectacular for Man City. He was pulling strings. 2 goals for him as well. Erling Haaland had a really good game as well, and he wasn't his same like scoring self. He was facilitating a little bit as well. And then you saw the rare John Stones goal too right before the break. But the only consolation goal that Arsenal had was an 86th minute goal, and then Erling Haaland got that one right back in the 90+5.
When does he not score?
I know he just had to get you a couple fantasy points.
Thanks, Erling.
So also, okay, so was there any other results here you want to discuss? I think for the most part, they are pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. Actually, I mean, we've honestly bragged on Chelsea enough, I think. So I'm going to give them a bit of a pass on the 2-0 to Brentford.
Yeah, I was going to shout out, even though we had some trouble. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I like Ivan Toney. I do.
On the field.
Yes. As a scorer, yeah, I think he's a great player, but just chill with the gambling, pal.
Okay. Before we move on to La Liga, who's going down in the Prem? Who's getting relegated?
All right, so I'm gonna go Southampton for one.
Also, can I throw one fact in there?
Yes.
Chelsea's only 10 points clear of the relegation battle.
Oh my god, that's so whack.
They're
It's
at
so
30.
whack.
They're at 39 points. Leicester in 18th is on 29.
Oh, I'm gonna go with
Like Southampton's kind of a lock.
Southampton's a lock. I'm gonna go Everton as well, and I'm gonna go with. See, mm, I really want Leeds to stay up because I don't want Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson playing in the championship, although they will dominate. Um, so I'm gonna go Southampton, Everton, Forest.
I also want to say, so this is the remaining schedule Chelsea has. Bournemouth. Actually, they have Arsenal tomorrow on Tuesday.
Hmm.
Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, City, United, Newcastle.
Yikes! Big
So,
yikes.
so I'm not saying that they're actually going to get relegated or quite touch where they're really concerned that it's going to happen, but they do not have a schedule that favors them towards the end of the season, to say the very
Mm-mm.
least. Their last
No,
three games are
United.
ridiculous.
United's is pretty fair. No, they don't have any. They're done with City. They're done with Arsenal. They're done with Tottenham. They're done with Newcastle.
Yeah.
Apart from playing City again, which we really haven't gotten into. Um, this is the first time ever that we have a Manchester derby for the FA Cup final. The first time ever. You wouldn't think it, but oh man, like all the
As
years.
I would rather Man U win, but this one's going to be you guys participate in the FA Cup final. This is Man City's FA Cup.
Okay, we'll see.
And again, I don't want to doubt you. I would rather see Man United win, but give me that attitude, Jeremy.
No, I'm
Dude,
just saying, like they have to play the game first. Like
there is not a
what if
team.
what if Rashford like drops a brace and we win 2-1?
There is not a
Could
team.
happen.
I don't think, given your defense right now, that you guys can keep them to one.
Okay, what if he drops a hat trick and we win 3-2?
There is not a team in the Prem that can touch Man City right now.
Yeah, it's
There is not
pretty
a.
fair. But I'm
There
just
is
saying,
not.
like
The only team I think that can legitimately go on the field, then maybe they can grab a result. That's fair.
Newcastle.
No. There is not a team in the Prem I think that can actually do it.
Oh,
They're the only team in the entirety of Europe that I think can get a result, and you can say, hey, they might have outplayed Man City as Real Madrid.
yeah, and we're gonna see that eventually.
I don't think they're better than Man City right now. But if there's any team in Europe that I think can go out there for 90 minutes and potentially outplay City, that's the only team I think that can do it. Napoli earlier in the season were in that conversation, but they're
Yeah.
not in that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in that type of form right now. Just to give who I think is going down, Southampton, Everton, I agree with. Personally, I kind of want Leicester to go down because I want Madison to go to Tottenham.
True.
And I also,
you want him to get
and,
like that 20 million pound fee.
and
You, like, yeah, like
yeah, and I'm also rooting for Opoku to get a shot with the first team there because I know he's on loan.
True.
So if they go to the championship, I think he has a much bigger shot of potentially getting playing time for them.
Oh, he'd kill in the championship.
And he's doing really well on loan right now. So I want that. Not that I want him to like not play in the Prem versus, you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
he'll
I
get
think
there eventually. They're gonna go back
exactly.
if they go back down.
But I actually think after what I just saw from Wolves, although they're currently in a spot that's 8-point clears, getting over a result like what they just put together is going to be tough. If any team is going to drop that, like any of the teams that are sitting 13 through like 15 right now might, really fall off the table. It's Wolves. Like that was a disastrous performance that they put together. But all right, let's move on to La Liga. Here are the results from La Liga. Sevilla 2-1 over Villarreal. I know that was one you wanted Villarreal to win after Sevilla eliminated Man United.
Yeah.
Barca won up over Atletico Madrid. That was, as far as 1-0 games go, that was a fun watch.
Mm-hmm.
Real Betis fell 3-2 to Osasuna. And then in the midweek, Girona 4-2 over Real Madrid. And that one we'll get into with our 3 stars. Real Betis drew against Real Sociedad, so that had a little bit of an implication on the European spots. Barcelona fell 2-1 to Rayo Vallecano. I always struggle pronouncing
Rayo Vallecano.
I know how it's pronounced, but I literally cannot get it out of my mouth, and I don't know what my struggle is. But every time, even even knowing how it's said, I can't get it out of my mouth. But every time that team comes up, I'm just going to point to you, Jeremy.
Rayo
Just, just,
Vallecano.
just, just to save me from just struggling
No
with
worries. I got you.
speaking. Villarreal 4-2 over Espanyol. Athletic Club it fell 1-0 to Sevilla, and well, Barcelona dominates Real Betis 4-0 today. Any of these fixtures really stand out to you? For me personally, Real Betis is struggling at the wrong time. They've gone from sitting somewhat, I would say, competitively in a top four spot, and now they're
Yeah.
sitting sixth with a game in hand for some of these other clubs that are around them. So they're in a tricky spot. So that stands out for me. Real Madrid falling to Girona was very weird, but still, honestly, not overly surprising, I would say, because I don't think they really care about the Liga this season. I genuinely don't think they care. They know they're not catching Barca, so I think they're just like, all right, cool. We're just gonna save ourselves for the Champions League. And then aside from that, it was really just the Barca performance today. They were dominant. They were really dominant today. Real Betis ended up with a red card too, but Barca just end to end dominated them. So you have anything on any of these fixtures here?
Not on these fixtures per se, but I think La Liga is one league where I think the top four is pretty much set. So that's Real, Barca, Atletico, and Sociedad. To me, Sociedad, they don't get a lot of love. They've been they've been a riot since appearing in, Europa League and Conference League play. So seeing them get some Champions League accolades, hopefully, and probably would be great for their brand right there. Barca, like I feel like we always dig at Barca for what they've done in the past with the whole referee thing and all that, but like they're playing good soccer, Sammy. Like they're playing really well. Like in their two games, they've outscored their opponents 5-0. And look, La Liga is no schlub. I put La Liga. I always try to make a power rankings for the top leagues. Prem always stands at number one for me, but like
Serie A is two this season.
this season, right? Yeah, I would.
Overall, it's a Liga 2, I would say, but I think Serie A has had themselves. I mean, they have half of between Europa and Champions League, they have literally half of the spots.
That's
So
true. Yeah, I
I
always have a soft spot for the Bundesliga. I don't know why. I think it's because it was one of the first leagues that was on like cable, like it was on like ESPN and Fox and
they have
stuff.
one of the
But
more fun like title races right now.
yeah, that's
For
true, and
sure.
we'll get into that. Yeah,
But in
but
terms of European success, they haven't done much.
yeah, no, Villarreal right now sit at fifth, so they're 8 points out of a Champions League spot behind Real Sociedad. So again, they're trying to pick up some wins. Obviously, they take a 4-2 win over Espanyol. So again, I think their top four is locked, even though Villarreal are showing some promise and some fight here at the end of the year. But it should be interesting for La Liga, and yeah, see how this race ends.
Yeah, in all honesty, too, like there are a couple clubs here, Real Betis, Villarreal, and Real Sociedad. I know they're not in those I feel like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid are like the three that typically you're going to see in the UCL. But those latter three have been pretty competitive in a lot of contests in some tough games. Tough little stretch here for Real Betis, but and they've really, I would say, screwed their chances at top four. They were in a real competitive spot, and then these last couple drops have really impacted them. But nevertheless, let's move on to Serie A, and again, one of the more fun leagues in general this season. Starting actually with the Coppa Italia, Inter advance, knocking off Juventus. So big ups there to Inter. And then we're gonna go Torino beats Lazio 1-0. Inter 3 up over Empoli. Milan 2-0 over win. Napoli 1-0 over Juventus. Roma falls to Atalanta 3-1. And then Roma also picking up a draw with Milan today. So all of those results having a pretty big impact on what is the most competitive 2 through 6, 7 in any league right now, because you're looking, and that includes the Prem, and the Prem is pretty close right now. But you're looking at Lazio on 61 points, Juventus on 59 after they got their points back from what they had deducted. Milan's on 57, Roma's on 57, Atalanta's on 55, and Inter's on 54. So Inter currently not in a European spot at the moment. So I think they're likely going to throw all of their chips at the UCL.
Absolutely.
Um, so, but again, I think instead of, because none of these results, I would say overall were necessarily convincing for one team or the other, because Napoli Juventus was competitive. Napoli just played a little bit better. Atalanta was a bit of a shock there with knocking off of Roma, but again, Roma just have a really tough stretch of games right now. And they had I would say, a tougher matchup with who they had to play in the Europa League as well. So, and then having to turn around immediately after playing Atalanta and going to Milan and actually getting a point out of it is still pretty good. So you got to give Jose Mourinho and that club some credit. But Jeremy, who do you think the top four and maybe the fifth spot are going to be in terms of the Serie A?
Oh, this is so tough.
Obviously, Napoli won, but
Obviously
beyond that,
Napoli won. I'm gonna go Juve 2. I'm gonna go. Oh man, this is. I'm gonna go Lazio 3. I really want Jose to make the Champions League. I really do. I'm gonna go AC Milan 4.
that's fair. I think it stands exactly as it is because Lazio has a really easy schedule remaining.
Mhm.
So I think it stays Napoli, Lazio, Juventus, and Milan. But I definitely, and I think I honestly, because of being a little bit of a Rafael Leao fanboy, I kind of want Milan to make it over Roma. But if Roma makes it, I'm not gonna be upset. They'd put together a few quality results, giving a little credit themselves. But Bundesliga, your second favorite league.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of interesting results, and it started with one that actually you predicted correctly. Dortmund 4-0 over Frankfurt, Mainz 3-1 over Bayern, Leverkusen 2-0 over RB Leipzig. Leverkusen is one of the clubs that I'm very high on as of late. Union Berlin 1-0 over Mönchengladbach. How can I say that one, but I can't say whatever.
Borussia Mönchengladbach.
I don't know how I can get that one
Rayo
out. No
Vallecano.
issue. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Speaking is hard, except I'm at a communication school right now and doing a podcast. Dortmund and Bochum tie 1-1, Leverkusen 0-0, Union Berlin, Leipzig 1-0 over Hoffenheim. So some decent results there, pretty impactful to the overall table. But the biggest thing in terms of Dortmund drawing to Bochum, and that really sets up an opportunity for Bayern should they get a win tomorrow against, I believe they're playing, who are they playing tomorrow? They're playing Hertha. So a favorable matchup for them. Should they get the win, they're back at the top of the table, kind of controlling their own destiny. And things are getting a little sticky now for Union Berlin. Union Berlin now in third, tied with Freiburg for fourth. Leipzig are in very good form. They're on 54 points, and there's a chance we could see Union Berlin, our darling of the season, I'd say, falling out of UCL, which would stink because the type of financial benefit they'd get from UCL
No,
would be
and
fantastic.
yep. Yeah, I personally believe Berlin as a city deserves Champions League football. I mean, man, what was it, episode 1 or 2? I was like the biggest fanboy of just Union Berlin. And, they're the little brother compared to Hertha, even though Hertha just don't play a great brand of football right now. I'm going to be pulling for Union Berlin for the remainder of the Bundesliga. I want them to make Champions League so bad. It's one of the best footballing cities. I want to go there eventually. My buddy from school, Vince, has gone to a Hertha game. He said it was electric. But honestly, I'd rather go to a Union game because the stadium's smaller. And I feel like I really like that smaller, more like close knit community of a team that Union is. But Union, we are pulling for you, or at least I know we both are. So you got two lads in Syracuse who I really want you to make some Champions League football next season.
Yeah, personally, I'd want the top four to be Dortmund winning it. I would prefer that. I think you would agree.
Sorry, Carl.
Bayern in second, because you can't really have the UCL without Bayern, and they're not going to drop off that much. It's just not something Bayern will do. Union Berlin 3, and then I want to see Leipzig or
Yes.
Leipzig get in. Leverkusen, I've been very high on lately, but I think they're going to prioritize trying to win the Europa League And if they win the Europa League,
And
might
they
get
can
into
get
the
in,
UC,
right?
get
Yeah.
in that way. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And so I guess we should look at League One very quickly. I don't think there's a ton to talk about. There usually isn't. And that's, again, why we want, League One in general to be more competitive, have some of the other teams be a little bit more competitive, invest a little more in their clubs. Especially because they have some teams that have good bases. They're just not quite there to where they could challenge PSG, especially in a week where PSG plays the literal last place team in the league. The only game I kind of wanted to bring up was Lens 3-0 over Monaco, which I thought was a very impressive performance from Lens. And I also do like Monaco's squad in general. We had that Stardom Cinema cut him. I think it was the first episode actually with it was Ben Yedder was in the conversation.
Yes.
We were both pretty high on him as well. But Lens, I feel like Lens is one of those clubs that are doing a lot with not necessarily that much. They don't necessarily have those big name players or anything like that.
Right.
But they're putting together some solid performances. And in general, they're making things fairly competitive. Since we're talking about standings as much as we are, I want to point out where everybody is right now. PSG clear at 75 points. Surprise, surprise. Marseille 67 in second. Lens 66 in third. Monaco 61 in fourth. And Lille 59 in fifth. Rennes and Lyon tied at 53. A couple spots.
Say it back. Again. Or how do you say?
Lille.
Lille.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
I like the way you say it though. It's Lele.
Damn. You can tell I've never taken French. That is like, jeez. Wow. That is like I've been struggling this episode and I get slight pass because I'm sick.
You're fine. You're fine.
That was one of the dumber things I've done. Oh well. Whatever. Just gotta wear it on the chest, I know ball, but only to a certain extent, apparently. But in terms, League One sucks. I'm gonna have to give myself a pass. But all right. So, is there anything you really want to talk about here in terms of the competition, in terms of anything in League One, or are you good?
I think I'm okay. I mean, I don't want to say that, but yeah. Again, Lens being in the Champions League would be a bit of an eye opener. I can't recall the last time they were ever in the Champions League. Usually from France, it's always been Paris. It's been Marseille, Lyon, Lille when they won the league a couple years ago.
Not Lille?
Not, unfortunately, not Lille.
I feel like I have to call them Lille. Like
Lille.
The rest, like that's just what they are to me now.
But yeah, PSG they've just owned this league ever since the 2010s, even before that. But yeah, props to them. But Sammy, I'm a little thirsty. So what's the team, my friend?
There's a lot of tea, and again, it's pretty Spurs centric, just because that's where the club is right now. So let's start with the Spurs refunding their fans tickets for traveling to Newcastle. Yeah, that's
props
good.
To them though. Props to them.
Yeah, it's a big boy decision, but also the fact that you have to do that says a lot. Ryan Mason, as we touched on, is appointed to continue as the manager there for Spurs. I'm struggling mentally with being able to watch Tottenham. That Man U result did help a little bit. So I'll tune into Liverpool tomorrow and we'll see where I'm at. And so Levy is allegedly listening to offers for Kane, and it's about 80 million allegedly for teams that are abroad, over 100 for Premier League sides.
That's not fair. I'm kidding, but yeah.
And I am not surprised because I think Kane wants to stay in England. I don't think that's any surprise. Because for most part, unless I would say out of every title, no title is as impressive to win as the Prem. In trophies, winning them in England is more impressive than winning them in the Bundesliga, for example. With PSG is one of the teams that's targeting him, but and then obviously Bayern, another team that had been linked to him for a while. So I don't really see him leaving. I think he would, as much as this is kind of shocking to say, I feel like he would stay and finish his contract, his one remaining year at Tottenham before he would go to abroad to one of those other teams.
Yeah, but you don't want him to go on a free transfer. You don't
No,
want
that
no.
I think they should sell him or get him to sign an extension this offseason. I
Yeah,
think you have to make that choice.
that'd be
Um,
bad for your club if you let him go, and you won't. But I'm just
no,
saying, you're not going to let him go for free.
don't underestimate Levy. He does some dumb things. Um, so other thing, moving a little over to Chelsea now, but kind of hand in hand with Spurs, Julian Nagelsmann and Luis Enrique are out as potential Chelsea managers. It seems like it's going to be Pochettino taking over the lead there for
It's good for you
Chelsea.
though. It's good for you because your Tottenham fans or fellow fans that live in the past are they're heartbroken. Their prodigal son is going to go to another London club.
Now they have a reason to not like him. So I think that's good. And I have nothing against him. I just think Tottenham in general need to move on. And I'm glad there's actually been a lot of things that said Tottenham have never even entertained looking at him again, which I
Good.
think is good. That's the big point of Tottenham. You need to move on. You need to look forward. You need to
Yes.
reset right now. So it seems also the leading favorite here for Tottenham is Julian Nagelsmann. It seems like he's more than likely to be the choice. And I also saw Ragnick say earlier in the week that Spurs should want Nagelsmann and that it would be a really good job for Nagelsmann to take should they get the right sporting director. So some interesting backing and vocal support there. And in general, I think that's the right choice. I wouldn't hate Luis Enrique because also getting the potential Spanish influence that he would bring would be interesting. But again, I think Nagelsmann would be better for a investment in a future project. He'd be the guy for a
younger
while.
too as well.
Exactly. So Chelsea, and we talked about this earlier, are 10 points clear of the relegation zone. Bellingham is now allegedly saying he wants Real Madrid, which I don't think is a surprise. And then also staying with the Liga, Kessié is up for sale. I'm a pretty talented midfielder there, so you can see him moving to some of the bigger clubs. Rafael Leao is apparently going to stay at AC Milan. He is sort of declining offers and attempts from other teams to look at him. I know Chelsea have approached him and he kind of just brushed him off, which would make sense given their current position. And then the final one is a little bit of a shout out to Barca and one of their youngsters today, Lamine Yamal, a 15-year-old. He's a youngster. And he made his debut as the youngest player ever to debut for Barca in their 4-0 win today. So big ups to him. A little shout out there. Any of this tea standing out to you, Jeremy? Anything you want to comment on? Or should we move to the very few games remaining in these match weeks that we haven't already talked about as final results?
Well, first of all, I hope you guys do get Nagelsmann. I think, again, this Tottenham product to me is an attractive one. It's just what's been going on that has made it less attractive. And it's keeping Harry Kane. Does he stay? Does he go? Does he leave before the new manager comes in? And I think the manager will come in first prior, before your decision on Harry Kane. I hope you get Nagelsmann. I really do. I love him as a manager. I was shocked when Bayern let him go. We said this before.
If you look at Bayern's latest form, it doesn't seem like they made the right choice. Not that Tuchel is not a great manager, not still a quality manager. I don't want to, say that about him because he inherited a weird situation with a team that mentally is in a weird spot. So just wanted to say that there, but keep going.
Yeah, and then my last point, it's not my Ted Lasso quote of the day, but oh man, it's the hope that kills you. And I'm talking about Jude Bellingham. When you see Jude Bellingham in the same sentence as Manchester United, you think, oh my God, it's going to happen. But then you see Liverpool, then you see City, then you see Real Madrid. And you're
also,
just like,
I've seen a lot of hopeful Arsenal fans as of late too. And much of as quality of a season as they are having, I don't think they're quite at that.
His role fits better at United than Arsenal. And I'm not just saying that as a fan. It's just like you already have I don't know. I'm not in the mood to make an argument about, Arsenal or United, but I think he'll go to Real Madrid. And I mean, but then it's like again, we had this conversation. Who do you take out? Who are you taking out? Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde? Like
their midfield is so good. If they can take the offseason and fully convert Camavinga into a left back, that might be their best option.
Wow.
Because they're all talented enough to where they should be in your starting 11.
Yeah.
So if they're successful in that potential like redirection, even Valverde as like an attacking minded right back could also be an option
I
too.
love
Wouldn't hate
Valverde.
that. I do too. His form this season, especially since I would say the World Cup, has been ridiculous. I don't think he's had a match grade below 8.
Yeah, no, he's going to be the reason why Uruguay, or as we say in America, Uruguay, are relevant in Copa America, the World Cup, because back in the day it was Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani. Valverde is going to have some help. Him and Darwin Nunez are going to be, the two new faces of Uruguayan Uruguayan national football. I don't know if I'm
Don't
saying
ask
that
me.
right.
I've struggled with
I know,
speaking
man.
in
I'm
general
not.
today.
You're not
Don't
my
ask
source.
me.
You're not my source for
Uh,
names pronunciations, but no, yeah, Valverde's he's just an absolute stud. But let's get into some upcoming fixtures, Samuel.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna briefly touch on two leagues that are gonna be very quick because La Liga, there's not a lot of good games this week, unfortunately. And then if you look at League One, all Euro plays teams are playing bottom half clubs. So there's not a ton to talk about in either of those leagues. So I'm gonna kind of go on and we'll finish with Prem. We'll go through these other leagues that are quicker. So Bundesliga, there's only one game left for some of these bigger teams, and it's Bayern Hertha. Again, if Bayern were to win, they jump up to first. So this is a big game. But again, they're in pretty disastrous form as of late, and have dropped some games you'd expect them not to drop. I would say mainly the 3-1 loss to Mons, and then the 1-1 draw there to Hoffenheim were shockers in general. And also, they still aren't that far removed from that 2-1 loss to Freiburg, although Freiburg is currently in a European spot. So again, that's a really important game for Bayern. And then in Serie A, you've got two decent games. Juventus Bologna. This one's just important for Juventus to kind of hold on to that second spot, or get into that second spot, depending on what Lazio do, because Lazio have to play Inter, and that's a
Great
big
game.
game.
That's
That's
a
a
great game.
really big game. Because you're looking at Inter, they're seventh. They're not in a European place right now, but they're only 1 point behind Atalanta in sixth, 2 points, or I should say 3 points behind Roma and Milan, tied for fourth and fifth. So a win over Lazio could be big in benefiting Juventus should they beat Bologna, and just big in benefiting themselves because that win would put them in a really good spot. So if they win, they jump up actually all the way into fourth because of goal differential. So they would be in a really good spot should they get the win. So that's a really big game for them. So any of those games you want to discuss or jump into the Prem?
We can jump into the Prem, but again, like that Inter Lazio game is a game that a lot of people should have their eyeballs on because to me, Inter, it's just that Serie A is just so competitive. And you said it, it's second best league this year. How the hell it's like, how can you not have Inter Milan in the Champions League? You know what I mean? Like Inter, like those teams like AC and like Roma, I can kind of see. Roma are pretty much, younger. I think I really like the Inter core over like the Roma core and the Atalanta core, and the Roma core. Did I say Roma already?
You have, but also wanted to say, since you brought Roma back up, wherever Dybala plays next season, he's going to be impactful. He's had himself a good season for Roma.
But yeah, we can head over into the over across the pond
Yeah,
to England.
because the Prem has the most games that are going to be, because they're also still making up a lot of games. So they have the most quality games that haven't been played yet. So natural. And again, the Prem in general going to be the most competitive because they have the most teams in that middle table range that make for good games in general. So you got Man U, Aston Villa. That's going to be a really good game. Man City, Fulham, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea. Those are four very good contests. And then in terms of some games that are being made up, Liverpool, Fulham, Man City, West Ham, and Brighton, Man U. What stands out to you, Jeremy, aside from the Man U games? Because I know that's what you're going to say.
Oh, well, I wasn't even going to say Man U first, but it's the Harris Derby. Shout out to my two best friends from growing up since we were kids, Thomas and James Harris. They're twins. Thomas is a Tottenham fan. James is a Liverpool fan. I've always loved watching Liverpool Tottenham games because I used to sit in between these two brothers, just banter back and forth about Tottenham and about Liverpool. And sure enough, a couple years ago, when this was the Champions League final, when Tottenham made that great run, but it was just wasn't enough for Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. It was a 2-0 victory. I believe there was an early goal from Divock Origi, if I'm not mistaken. But I love this fixture. I'm gonna favor Liverpool. Don't get mad at me, but I love this one as well. And you know what? If Chelsea decide to score goals, how about making it against Arsenal? Huh?
Yeah,
Let's have them step
that's
up.
fair. I actually think that Liverpool Tottenham game is gonna be a draw.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, yeah.
Because I think Liverpool, they're in decent form right now. They've started to kind of click. Klopp's getting this team back into their typical kind of success, given what they have, because their midfield's weak.
Yeah.
And he's making the most of it, I would say, at this point. He's gotten some decent results. And then that second half from Tottenham, I think, is going to empower them to not drop all 3 points. So I think this will end up being like a 2-2 game, much like you saw against Man U. Might even be 1-1, but I think both these two defenses as of late are a little bit more leaky. So I think it's going to be 2-2, maybe 3-3. But just since I said you shouldn't talk about Man U right away, I'm going to bring up those Man U games because both of those Man U games are really good. Aston Villa and Brighton, those are tough back-to-backs and very important for them in terms of maintaining that fourth spot. I will say these are your two one of these games is your game in hand to Spurs and Villa. And then this is also your one game in hand to Liverpool.
Yep.
So getting points out of this is very important for you because you guys are 6 points clear right now, which is comfortable. That's fairly safe, especially given that you have a game in hand to some and 2 games in hand to others. But and I'm not wishing this on you, obviously, but should Man U lose to Villa and Brighton, that's putting them in a very different spot now because now you're only 6 points clear and it's kind of going to be iffy depending on the rest of the way because Man U, they don't have the hardest schedule the rest of the way, but again, they still have an FA Cup final to think about. They still have a game against Fulham, a game against Chelsea. Bournemouth are competitive. So West Ham have been, known to put up a fight. So they still don't have the easiest remaining schedule. So it's very important, I would say, for them to try to come away with at least one win between these 2 remaining games. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I'm crapping my jocks, Sam. That's all I'm going to say right now. Yeah, this is a real tough stretch for United coming after a really big penalty shootout win against Brighton, playing them again. And then team against Aston Villa, who I've also been praising a lot on this podcast, and Unai Emery and what he's done with this club and really solidifying their top half, standard for the Premier League. Yeah, this is why you brought Eric Ten Hag in. It's results like this. It's adjusting around injuries. Like I get it. I get missing Licha Martinez. I've said it before. I said it last week. He's a real integral part of this Man U defense. But it's who steps up, right? And I thought Victor Lindelof had a really superb game against Brighton in the semifinal and scoring the game winner in the penalty shootout. It's not going to happen, but Maguire shouldn't play both of these games. I would rotate Lindelof and Varane, whatever you want to call them, as the main pair here. Even Luke Shaw, give Luke Shaw a look at center back and, throw in Tyrell Malacia, even though Malacia's form's kind of been but Aaron Wan-Bissaka has really shut up the haters over the last couple of fixtures. Yeah, his dribbling is it's give or take. But his tackling, man, is unreal. Like, I think he's a better defender, and you know what? I'm not even going to say it. Okay. I'm not even going to say it.
If you don't want to shout out a defender, I'm going to shout out a defender. Romero's been playing very poorly. His second half against Man U was fantastic.
Yeah,
so
that's
I forgot to say that earlier, but you bringing that up made me think of it. His second half, because he's had some iffy games as of late, but that second half against Man U was fantastic. Yeah, but I think it's time for your shout out that you have, Jeremy. A little championship shout out. So let's hear it.
My God. Okay, first of all, when we sign this player, I actually love when FIFA Wonder Kids, make it big because you're like, oh yeah, he's projected to be a 99 overall in like 10 years. This kid, oh my God, when we signed him, I was so happy. He came from Atalanta in Syria, but Amad Diallo, oh man, he killed it. When I say killed it, he killed. I want to get his full stats here if you don't mind, just real quick. But Amad Diallo went on loan, so we United bought him from Atalanta, sent him on loan to Sunderland to play in the Championship, and he was just awarded their Young Player of the Year. And when I saw this video this morning, Sammy, I almost like got emotional. They were cheering, the tune of, well, United had the chant that went Viva Ronaldo. Now it's Viva Garnacho, which shout out to him. He signed his extension till 2028. Big up to Garnacho there. 36 appearances for Sunderland, Amad Diallo. He's got 12 goals, which is fair. Fair for a winger. It's great stats for a winger. They were singing Ahmad, like they were singing his name in the Stadium of Light. It was just echoing, 40, 50,000 people just going, Ahmad Diallo. And he was like getting emotional because he knows that he's going to be leaving this club, come June. And look, I know winger is winger is a tough place to crack for United with having Sancho and Rashford and Anthony and Garnacho. But you throw in Amad Diallo on the bench and you kind of replace him with Anthony Alanga as that like depth bench winger slash I don't even want to put him at false nine, but on the left or the right wing, he's going to be that impactful player next year. So shout out to the main man, the youngster, 20 years old from the Ivory Coast, Amad Diallo. Well done, good sir.
Ted Lasso?
Real quick before we get into it, because who wants to start? You or me?
I cried.
So did I.
A lot.
Did I.
A lot of tears.
Oh my God. It was oh.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh my God.
Also, I will say before you go, I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
The casting for Sam Abasanya's dad, fantastic.
Oh my God. I've seen that
it.
guy before. Was he in Game of Thrones? Wasn't he the guy?
Yes.
In Dorne?
Yeah.
Yes. He's on. Was it Dorne? Yeah.
No, it's not. I don't know if it was Dorne. It was.
He was the guy that wanted to get married to Khaleesi, but then Khaleesi locked him in the spoilers. And it's been out for years.
Yeah, inside that like fortress,
He
the one like
him
the
in
sand.
The cellar.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Oh, he's a great actor. But I saw him pop up as Sam's dad. Which first of all, his name is Ola, and Ola is the name of his restaurant. So he named it after his dad. I'm gonna start crying. I really am. So it starts off with how does it start? Well, first of all, this episode was written by the woman that plays Jane, Beard's girlfriend. Tremendous job. 2 bangers in a row with Brendan Hunt, and I forget her name off the top of my head. I know she's the actress that plays Jane. So Total Football is now the regimen for AFC Richmond, and they execute it against Arsenal to an extent. They do lose, but now they're showing that they are a proper football club. But while all this is going on, we get a storyline with Keely and Jack, her new girlfriend. And they call it love bombing, that her and Rebecca are, she's talking to Rebecca and she's love bombing you because she's giving her all these gifts. She got like a first edition of a Jane Austen book, and she said that, oh, Lily is her favorite flower. And then her whole office is filled with lilies the next day. I kind of like Jack. She's pretty cool. I like her as a character. She's not bad. Better than Keely's friend who, long gone. Bye-bye. But the main storyline was Sam's dad was coming to visit, and this politician who we want to assume is like kind of like right wing or alt right kind of deal. I don't want to put myself, but it kind of basically, not allowing, people to come into the United Kingdom right away. And so Sam goes to Twitter and actually vocalizes his opinion. Now, that's a really big deal for an athlete because you can get in a lot of hot water. His friend at the restaurant was saying, call her something else. We won't say, but he's like, I think this is good for now. She responds with, shut up and dribble. And his restaurant gets looted. This beautiful Nigerian restaurant, Ola's, gets looted and just destroyed. And it's heartbreaking because his dad's coming. He comes into the training facility all hot and bothered and is just really upset. And he hears this voice, and it's his dad walking into the locker room. This big behemoth of a man, but he's such a lovable guy, like his son is. And he just falls into his arms and starts crying. Now, that's not the part where I started crying, but it was a really great part. Him and his dad talk. He gets to meet Ted. His dad, Ola, gets to meet Rebecca, which is pretty funny. He's like, Sam's told me all about you. So they do lose to Arsenal, but Sam's dad really, really wanted to see the restaurant. But Sam's like, no, it's all beat up. It got looted, whatever. And they open the door, and the entire team, the entire team is cleaning up the restaurant without even, they didn't even tell him. They didn't tell him. It
Let me
was
take over for a sec.
it's a really beautiful moment. And it just goes to show you that you don't have to plan anything. It's just the goodness of your heart to do something really, really cool. And and then once the restaurant was all cleaned, he kept the broken windows, the little windows like in the restaurant. He's like, let's keep them to kind of show it as like a big like up yours to the people that came in and ruined it. And then it cuts to him and his dad just cooking in the kitchen, and it's so beautiful, man. This episode to me, a lot of our friends thought it was like, okay. To me, I thought this was a home run. This was a home run. Sam, please take over because I'm gonna need the blubber again.
Yeah, you're good. Screw Nate. I hate Nate, dude.
Oh,
Dude, when his Siri addresses him as Wonderkind, I'm like, dude, I was
Mm.
starting to
How pretentious can you
see
be?
I was trying to see like some emotional stuff for him, like relationships with his family and like him getting his girl and all of that. And then the Siri addresses him. I'm like, dude, I still hate you, and I hope your
Yeah.
heart gets broken. Like,
Mhm.
I wish
It was
I
pretty. The map scene was pretty cool with his mom and his sister, though. I kind of liked that. Like when his
yeah,
dad.
I would have loved it if it was for anyone else. Just because I hate Nate. I tend to be a pretty optimistic person unless it's about Spurs. And I want to see the best in people, but I want Nate to fail, and I want Nate to end. I think, bold prediction: if there is another season of Ted Lasso, Nate's gonna lose his job at West Ham and end up an assistant at AFC Richmond before the end of the season in
Again.
season 4. I think he's gonna finish under
They've
Ted
already done
Lasso.
that with Jamie, though. Like Richmond, leave, come back.
Okay,
Like,
but I think like essentially they're gonna be missing some type of tactical influence, and it's gonna be something that Nate like figures out while he's unemployed, and he
and
reaches
Ted
out to
hires him
Ted,
out of the
and
goodness of his heart.
he reaches out to Ted. They talk, something happens. I think that's a direction the show could go.
Okay.
Because I have a feeling towards the end of the season, though, there's going to be some type of negative with him because he's had way too much go in his direction this season, I think.
I really want to let you go and give your analysis of the episode, but here's the one nitpicky thing I'm gonna just really like kind of throw out. Um, I get that. I actually really like that idea now that you've said that, like having him come back. However, they've done it before with Jamie leaving, and everyone's like, oh, like Jamie, like Simmer Sam was like, oh, we got to bring Jamie back. Like,
Yeah.
he's the reason why we're playing in the championship. And then it was like Roy coming on, and then like Nate was jealous of Roy. Now, I don't know if there's going to be any form of jealousy, but it's like, okay, we're bringing back an old character to come back to Richmond. It's just a kind of beating a dead horse with that. But I kind of see where you're going with that. Yeah.
maybe, but this whole show in general has been about mending bridges and kind of overcoming your
It's true.
issues. Jamie and Roy mending their bridge. Jamie and Ted mending a bridge that was more something that Jamie had an issue with because he has father issues than anything else.
Yeah.
Um, and Rebecca trying to mend her own, just relationship life and relationship with her friends
With
that she cut
Ted too,
off.
in a way, because she really
Yeah,
hated Ted in the first
she
season.
didn't she didn't hate Ted. She
It
just
was just out of
brought him
spite for
in
Rupert.
to
Yeah.
fail. Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't hate him. I don't think she ever hated him as a person. It was more she expected him to fail, and that's why she
It's
hired
when they
him.
hugged in his office where they were like, yeah, they're really like they're friends.
They
Like,
actually are friends.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think because the show is really about like many, even with Jamie coming back to the team, it was about the rest of the team kind of overcoming and bending that bridge with him again. So there's just a lot of this kind of figuring things out. Jamie and Keely trying to get back on just sensible, common terms. Like a lot of this has been about getting over kind of past trauma and past relationship. Ted having a healthy relationship with his ex, his ex-wife. Like there's just been a lot about getting over certain issues you've had in your past. So I feel like that might be, and I think it really will be in the final episode or two. Like AFC Richmond has a chance to like win the Premier League next season and they have to play Man City and they're just racking their brains, can't figure out a tactic that might beat them. And it's going to be Nate that helps figure that out. But I think it's time for our fun finish. Now, the final few segments, game in history first up. And this one, it's been a lot of Tottenham and or Man U. And this one, since I've been so negative on Tottenham, I put down this game. Man U versus Spurs back in April of 2009.
Wow.
Spurs up 2-0 at the break. Darren Bent finds one in the 29th. Luka Modric finds one in the 32nd. And Sir Alex Ferguson had a chat with the team at halftime. And there's the joke that he said, it's probably not what he said, but there was a joke that he said, lads, it's Tottenham. And Man U won 5-2. And it was behind Cristiano Ronaldo pen. He had another goal in the 68th. Wayne Rooney had a brace. Yeah. So, yeah, not much else to say there, but Man U 5, Tottenham 2 back in April 25th, 2009. My locks. So one of them, when I just set these before we were able to record, is already happened, so I'm not going to count it. It was Barca over Real Betis. I'm not counting it because the game already happened. Allegedly could have put that today. So we're going to do on recording games that have not happened. So I have Brighton over Man U, Arsenal over Chelsea, and Spurs and Liverpool to draw. So those are the three games we're going with. A lot of Prem, but that's because most of the good games are Prem games that have been played. And my 3 stars, Kevin De Bruyne. Mentioned him earlier in the podcast, but he deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do. Pulling the strings versus Arsenal to get the win. Valentin Castellanos, 4 goals in the win versus Real Madrid, another player we did touch on a little bit earlier. And the kid I'm wearing, Antoine Griezmann, for his 2-assist performance earlier in the week as well. I think he had an 8.9 match rating in that one, so a really good performance from him. Jeremy, take it away.
All right. So our random footballer of the week. I mean, this guy, it was one of my favorite players because I kind of grew up in that, like, late thousands, 2010s. Like that's when I really started playing and enjoying soccer. This guy to me was just a force to be reckoned with. I remember him briefly on Chelsea, but he played 10 years for Bayern Munich. It's one of my favorite players, my favorite Dutch player of all time. Maybe second behind Robin van Persie. It's Ian Robin. I loved Ian Robin. To me, he was an ageless wonder. I mean, he's 39 now, but he stopped playing. I think he recently stopped playing in 2021. So he has officially retired. Yeah, he's a former winger. We'll give through his playing career, his senior career. So he started his senior career in 2000 with Groningen, where Jan Maas is from, Ted Lasso, fun fact. Then he goes over to PSV Eindhoven for 2 years, from 2002 to 2004. Then 3 years at Chelsea, 04 to 07, and then Real Madrid from 07 to 09. And then the majority of his career was spent at Bayern, 2009 to 2019. Really great moment that I remember vividly was the Dortmund Bayern Champions League final at Wembley Stadium and Ian Robin getting the game-winning goal. It was a 1-0 Bayern win. He scored in the 88th minute. Just slid one. I forget who was in net for Borussia Dortmund, but he just like a light touch, and you just saw the ball rolling and rolling. So that was one of his biggest accomplishments. And then he ended up going back to Groningen for a year or two, ending it in 2021. One of my favorite players on FIFA. If you got a Ryan Robin like inform card, it was always like a really big deal. So he's going to be someone that we're going to see, I think, EA turn to a Legends or an icon card. But Ian Robin is our random footballer of the week. Sammy St.Jean, are you ready to enter the Thunderdome?
I am ready. I am. This is so. If I get this, then we're gonna go down to 8 guesses.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it a little 8 questions. We're gonna make it a little harder.
Mhm.
Because you are. Is it 2 for 2 or 3 for 3? You're
I
3 for
am
3.
3 for 3.
I'm 2 for 2 right now. And if we're both 3 for 3, we got to make it a little harder. There's got to be some chance we don't get it. So we're gonna drop it down to 8 should that happen. Because there's been a couple that have run to that like 8 mark where it's tricky, and then we figure out in the final 2. So let's send it.
All righty. Sammy, you are up, and I will count the questions on my hands.
Yes. Is this team in the MLS, since we haven't done an MLS team yet?
They are not.
They are not. Okay. Has this team ever played in the Champions League?
Ever?
Ever.
Going like actually. Let's see.
But the fact that you have to check gives me some information.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if I'm being completely honest with you. Ever.
Ever.
Man, you're actually having me like really go through the
Yep.
the history here. Hold on.
That eliminates a lot of clubs if you say yes or no.
Let me just do like a Google search. Hold on. I'm on UEFA. I'm on UEFA's website.
Yep.
Okay. No. The farthest they have made, I'll just give this to you, was the 3rd qualifying round.
Okay.
And it was in 06-07. I'll just give that to you. So that's question 2. That was 2. So you have 8 more.
Okay. Is this team in the Bundesliga?
They are not.
Are they in Serie A?
They are not.
Ooh, this is tough. I feel like I have to get the league with this guess. They're not in Serie A. They're not in the Bundesliga. It's League One, Ligue 1, or La Liga. So I don't think if it was the Prem, I feel like you would have known if they were in the Champions League. So I'm going to go, are they in Ligue 1?
They are not.
So it's Bundesliga. I'm not even going to ask. So Bundesliga teams that have not made the Champions League. I feel like I have to ask just to play it safe since I still have the 10 questions to play with. Is this team in the Bundesliga?
No, they are not.
So it's a Prem team.
No.
Then you've lied to me because I've asked about every other league.
No, you didn't.
I've asked about MLS, Bundesliga, Serie A, Ligue 1.
Yes.
Did I not ask about La Liga? I thought I did.
You didn't.
I thought I did ask about La Liga.
Because you kept saying Bundesliga.
I kind of screwed myself. Whoops. All right. So maybe we'll stay staying at 10 questions because I kind of messed myself up here. Does this team have any red in their badge?
They do.
Okay.
You have 4 more guesses.
Is this team in a European spot right now?
As we stand.
Yes. Currently.
They are not.
They are not.
3 more guesses.
Does this team have any shade of blue in their badge?
They do. 2 more guesses.
Ooh. Getting down the wire here. Because almost every team has like blue and red. Huh. A little bit of an impasse here. But so they have blue and red.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in a European spot.
Mm-mm.
So that means it could be one, two, three, four, five, six different clubs right now from what I'm
Mm.
seeing.
Mm.
Is this team in the final three spots? Are they in a potential spot to get relegated right now?
They are not. One more question.
Last question. So I have it down to one, two, three. I have it down to four teams. So I will ask, does this team have any gold or yellow in their badge?
They do.
Okay. So that got it down to three.
Now it's your time to guess.
And it's a team you weren't sure about ever playing in the Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tell you the three teams I have it down to.
Yep.
Assassina,
Uh-huh.
Valencia,
Uh-huh.
and Cot. No, not Cot, because they don't have red. So it's literally just Valencia and Assassina, the two teams I have it down to. It was a team you considered. So I think it's a team that has a little bit of history. So I'm going to go with Valencia, final guess.
It is Osasuna.
It is Osasuna.
Yeah,
I
I
had it
had
down. I
you
had it
did.
down for
You
those
narrowed it.
two.
You narrowed it down
Yeah.
and you used every guess. And you
It
actually
was it
mentioned
was
the
just
team
because I forgot that I didn't say La Liga, and that really put me at a tough spot because I was
you,
gonna
you
guess
were
them
like Bundesliga. I
earlier.
go, no, no, man. You said every league, but you said Bundesliga. Like you went through MLS and then you said Bundesliga because then you're like, oh, you said MLS and you said Champions League. Took a
Yeah.
while. Had to look it up. Went on UEFA's website. Their furthest time they ever went was the third qualifying round in 06-07. No. Um,
Damn.
then you went through the leagues and you said Bundesliga, you said Liga, you said
Syria.
Serie
I
A.
said.
And I'm like,
Um,
okay, just say La Liga. And you went, you're lying to me. And I go, no, I'm not lying. You didn't say
Dude,
La Liga.
I for some reason I could have
You thought you
sworn I
said it?
guessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlucky.
Down to two, man. I thought
Yeah.
I thought Almeria might have been confusing because they kind of have gold, red, and blue, but I don't even know if that's blue. Because
I'm gonna.
I already
I'm
used
gonna.
Celta Vigo as one of my clubs that
I just knew Almeria wasn't a club that had never been really close to
yeah.
European competition. So, and I was like Valencia or Assassina, there's going to be something. They're close. But I thought Valencia had a slight bit more history. They might have actually been in the Champions League. I don't know. There's
I think
probably a
they
better
were.
chance that
Yeah.
they were. So that should have been maybe my hint, and that's why I asked the question. But I kind of
Mhm.
forgot that I asked that question. But oh well, I lost. Guess we're staying at 10 questions. Time for the debate. Let's go.
All right. So Sammy, let me hear your favorite and least favorite kit from the 2022-2023 season.
Least favorite kid is Tottenham's away. That kid is horrendous. Like horrendous. Like the most disgusting kid. Like I don't even think that should be a practice kit for any team. Like that is disgusting. Whoever came up with that should never be allowed to like design anything ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, favorite kit. So there's a couple different options. I'm always a fan of more or less whatever AC Milan's kits are. So I would say as a collective lineup, I think AC Milan have my favorite like home away alternate. Um, but when it comes to favorite individual kit, there's two that it goes down to. And I think I'm going to give the nod to Bayern's white and gold. I love that kit. But I did unfortunately consider the pink Arsenal kit. I really like the pink Arsenal kit. But yeah,
Mm.
those are my favorite kits.
Okay. So Tottenham away is one of my least favorite. And the other, I would say, would have to be United's third kit. It's that bright neon with the black. I don't like I like a bright kit, but when it's off, it is completely off. It's bad. In terms of best, I'm wearing one of them. To me, this is one of the cleanest kits I've ever seen in my entire life. And honestly, the black Arsenal. I love the black Arsenal kit. Arsenal makes great kits. It gives me hope. I love the United kit, the United away, the white one. The Reds the same every year. But yeah, I mean, my favorite's got to be Bournemouth. There's a reason why I bought it from the Bournemouth store. There's a reason why. Shout out Maddie Mushton. She had to drive me to the post office because they left the sticker on my door because they couldn't leave international mail at my door that needed my signature. So I had to sign for it. It came in a week. So hey, yeah. But first of all, Umbro underrated. Umbro and Hummel, some of the best kit manufacturers out there. We all love Nike. We all love Adidas. New Balance makes a decent kit.
Well, speaking of Umbro, that West Ham like white with the like design on the bottom, I think it's their
Ooh,
third kit. That one's pretty cool. I know that's an
yeah.
Umbro kit.
Mm-hmm.
I did forget to mention this, but Tottenham's alternate kit, that blue one, the light blue, um, with
Yes.
like I don't even know what to call the design, but it's like different shades of like navy kind of on top of it. That one's really nice. And then there was one other kit I was trying to think of, and I had to look it up. The Juventus third kit this season is pretty colorful. It's got that like blue base, and then it's got like pink all over the top of that blue, and it's like a kind of like a magenta looking color. It's just very like very catchy. Like it'll catch your eye for sure. But yeah, that's really all I got on kits.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, quote of the Ted Lasso quote.
Okay. So, apart from my blubbering both last week and today, our quote actually comes from the legend himself, Ola Opasanya. So this is during their monologue that they had at the training center in Richmond. Anger will only weaken you. If you really want to piss off the people who did this, forgive them. Forgive them. Big whoop. Don't fight back. Fight forward.
Give that one a second to marinate. That's a wrap, though. That was episode 6. This is the 90 plus 2 podcast. I'm Sammy St.Jean. That's Jeremy Soriano. And this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We are aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game. And this is our starting point. That was episode 6. Thank you guys for listening. And make sure to tune in on Thursday when we are back on schedule. But have a lovely rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week.